Hey everyone, welcome back to some more Minecraft. So, I thought this warranted a little bit of an update. So we're here on our little vanilla project, and quite out of hand. But I've been casually working on it in my spare time. Unfortunately, I've had to rip apart a few things to accommodate the size. So I sort of underestimated. So for instance, the mob system, since I added sound, I needed a few extra positions. I had to demolish some of the dead space in between and reorganize it. So usually I have the mob in front of the actual system that delivers the ability. But for all the hostile mobs, I've had to come up with a different system, and then we're just going to fill in vacant space with all the different commands. Any of these, like Blake panels, is where I'll build the actual codex commands so you can see what abilities they have. Other than that, finished work on a few of the other systems. I think mobs, also there's only eight left for me to actually do, which is great. Not sure if I'm going to do the Ender Dragon Wither. If so, then it's 10. And then there's also 12 bosses I want to make and build. I will reuse some of the ones from earlier projects. So there's not, I think I have to come up with 8 original ones. 8 or a bit less. New system-wise. So we will be working on a new one today that I really want to add. I just have to think out the logistics of it. And you can probably tell what it is from whatever I title the video. But I've also been working on a better dynamic difficulty system. So we have a few different constraints that you can turn on. So for one, we've got a system that checks equipment. It's only checking the chest plate. So if the player, for instance, has iron, diamond, netherite, or an elytra, it will summon different mobs in the area in accordance. And then there's a few just passive ones. So depending on if you set this on, so if you click the green arrow, this will obviously turn green. If not, it'll turn red. And the way it works is, as it says here, kill count. So every time you kill something, it's going to spawn something. And this one's damage dealt, so depending on how much damage you deal, it's going to spawn something within your proximity. Damage taken and sprinting. So they're just 4 easy variables to track using the scoreboard system. Pretty simple setup. Oh, that's the actual tester. This should be the proper one. So all it's doing is, if difficulty 4, because that's what I've called it. So if you sprint for 1,000 blocks, 10,000 blocks, sorry, it will summon this mob. And the mob's a bit special, as you can probably see. I've edited the NPT as well as its equipment. Other than that, the system I want to work on today is actually equivalent exchange. So you might remember the mod. Quite expensive. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to build it exactly, but I will pull from it and build my own system. And we're going to be using a structure again. So I've come up with this structure. The reason for it is I want the player to have to go find a new end portal, because this obviously covers the portal. You can obviously clear out the lava underneath and jump into it upwards if you really wanted. I could make them have to completely seal it in. And I might, just to be a bit of a dick. Other than that, so it's, again, we're using our little crucible structures. So you have to make this, and then you can deposit your items in here, and it will convert it, depending on what you name it. So we've got a whole command block system set up down here, and this is what we'll be using. This will accommodate 100 different exchanges. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use shulk. Because shulk is a fairly new block. It's somewhat farmable through the use of a shulk sensor. Otherwise, you can just go mine a lot of it. And obviously, I have to think up all the different values. But if I could find it, I should probably just type it in. So, normal shulk. Essentially, the way it will work is the player will name the shulk in an anvil, for instance, say cobblestone, and then you can trade whatever value I put it. So, for cobblestone, all the lesser building blocks, probably be 64 to 64. So, you drop 64 shulk into the little crucible up there, and if it's named cobblestone, it will transform into cobblestone. So, I will start filling in these command blocks, and then we'll test it out. So I ended up changing the design a little bit to accommodate creating an actual system. So this crucible system is a bit better for the player, because dropping an item into it, you can obviously center it properly. But this open floor plan, so to speak, means you can run water across it. So you could make an actual farm system where it pushes the shulk, because that's what we're going to be using as our exchange material. And you can see I've named some of them cobble, but you can have it so it processes it and then moves it down, and you can essentially create an assembly line. There is one more change I'm probably going to make. So right now, I think for cobblestone, it's... Oh, nope, this way. That's why I have so many. 8. So if I throw 8 onto the lodestone in the middle, for instance, that might not work. It might be a bit off. Yeah, I think it's a bit off. So that's what I mean. We have to essentially make sure it's completely inside the lodestone block. Otherwise, it won't transform correctly. Nope. Do you know what I've done wrong? There's no end portal. That's the missing ingredient, which I talked about right before. There we go. So now if I drop 8 of our shulk named cobblestone, you can see it transforms. And I was in my inventory screen, so probably didn't see. Yep. So if you drop more than 8, it won't work, because essentially it's counting the individual stack. But what you can do, and this is the main reason I want to make a certain change, is if we split this stack of 64, for instance, up into... Nope, that's not the right way. What's this way? Why did that go back to my hand? Okay. 8. Yeah, so right now, if they're all in stacks of 8, we can drop a whole bunch of them down, and it will convert them all. So it's a quicker way to essentially mass produce cobblestone in this instance. I've also done a few others. I think we did diorite, granite, a lot of the decoration blocks. Essentially, I have a huge list that I am slowly working through, and we can probably show it. Probably show exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, so you can see it's converting to diorite now. That other 8 stack should eventually... No, is that just normal? What was that? We got 1 stack. What happened there? Did they combine or something? So my mentality is you can... no. So you're somewhat broken. You're not deleting correctly. So wherever diorite to granite. Diorite. Did I misspell you? Diorite. At top is delete. My bad. Oh, okay. I completely skipped it. So we might as well go ahead and show how exactly I do this. It's pretty nuts. A lot of writing. So I've got this giant Word document. And essentially each one of these little paragraphs is the conversion system. And it's probably a bit easier to show off here than actually in a command block. I am just looking for diorite. Be near the top. There we go. Diorite. So this paragraph. So all we're doing is executing at shulk when it's named diorite. And it has to have all the blocks around it. Gone through that before. It's just using the if statements and then the correct positioning. There's a lot here, so we'll leave it be. And if it finds it, it's going to then spawn or summon diorite, count 64. And then the second command, which I did not put in, is going to delete the original shulk that's named diorite. So this only runs if there is diorite on the blocks. In this case, it's only looking for the lodestone, because I don't need to double check that the building's right, because it's already done the conversion. And this way, you can't essentially just duplicate infinitely. You do actually have to spend shulk to get whatever blocks. Still trying to figure out how, what conversion rates I want to make. Oh, this is still in Windows. But while we're at it, we might as well bring up that document too. So this Excel spreadsheet is what I've been using. Essentially, currently I'm going to change them to 1 to 8. So it's still the same ratio, because currently it's 8 to 64. But I would rather do 1 to 8. That way you can program a dropper. So you could very easily, if I go back to Minecraft, you could very easily just put a dropper on the edge here and have it shoot out, your shulk that's named at whatever interval. I think it's 3 seconds. So that's what you want time. I think a flowing water system is probably the most optimal, so you can mass produce. There's a lot of things that you could do with this, and that's why I've opted for this flat design. And I hope I get to see some, or at least I'll make some. What else? We'll go back through that Excel spreadsheet while we're still on our normal screen instead of full screen. So yeah, we've got 100 slots to play with my structure down there. So I mainly tried to think of blocks that you can convert into other blocks. So for instance, you can convert cobblestone obviously into stone, and stone into any of the other varieties. Same with all of the granite, diorite, all the other blocks. So I'm trying to just get the base material. That way I don't have to program every single item. So for instance, all the ores rather than the actual units, all the units and ores. Same for the logs. Logs you can convert to planks. You can do all the other wood cutting stuff. Some miscellaneous ones, so sponge, just white wool, so you can dye it. Tempted to put dyes. I think the flower farm is optimal as it is, so dyeing is not too necessary. The main ones, though, are, for instance, the utility stuff. So making repeaters, comparators. I do want to make them costly. Whether or not I go complete 64 shulk, I'm not too sure. Currently it's 32 to 1. Spawners, which you'll notice down here, I've put nether stars because I'm going to make them cost nether stars instead of shulk because I want them to be more expensive. And then we still have, what is this, 3, 5, I think 10 slots, if I count that right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. So we still have 10 items, 10 miscellaneous items or 10 special items that I can input. Otherwise, I've pretty much covered the majority of things. We can go back to normal Minecraft now. So I've just scrolled through these pages and decided exactly what we want to use. But yeah, it's still a lot for me to do, obviously. We've done whatever percent of this. I think it's like 14 or 15. So it's 15 out of 100. Or actually 30 out of 200. Because I got to do top and bottom. Still a fair bit to copy over. Not only that, but I have to type out all the values. And then, like I said before, we still have a few more mobs to do, 8 to 10, depending if I want to do the Wither and Ender Dragon, and then 12 bosses. One other portion of the dynamic difficulty. I don't think I explained this one. I delete the sign. So these run off of timers. I think this one might be 5 minutes if I break the glass. So, excuse, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I didn't need to break the glass. I need to look at the one down here. Yeah, so every 5 minutes, this is just going to essentially duplicate loaded mobs. That way, you know, there's a bit more of entity cluster. And I think that's something important. It's definitely something you might want to avoid. It's this one. You might want to avoid on a server. But single player, I would play with it. Because the cluster of mobs, especially late game, is not enough. This 30-minute one, though, I want to make unique mobs. So, for instance, if there's Enderman now in the world, it might spawn, I don't know, a souped-up Invoker near them. Something like that. Just tie a limited selection of mobs to more powerful mobs. That way you can sort of get these more dynamic groups of a strong mob with a cluster of weaker mobs. That was a pretty bad example. Take Pillager, for instance. So if there's a group of Pillagers, it might summon an Illusioner as like the leader or group boss. Zombies, it could summon a Husk or what the other one, Drowned, as like the greater enemy in that little cluster. I think that's a good way of doing it. Don't know if I want to add any more crafting systems. I think we're pretty good. I think I still have some of the traps to do. I still haven't touched Defend onwards. You might have noticed I've done a bit more building, trying to flesh things out. I'll end up covering the command blocks once we're good to go, which should hopefully be soon. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for this one. Just a little update and showing off a new system. Probably tinker around, and then I'll most likely just include a few more little showings. If you didn't catch it, obviously you need the end portal, and you also need... I changed to a beacon, actually. So a beacon underneath, surrounded by shulk. So this way, you can't use this end portal unless you want to disassemble the structure every time. So you will have to go and find either a second end portal or just sacrifice your end portal to actually use the conversion system, which I think is a very fair trade. Trying to keep it somewhat balanced. Because obviously, exchanging... like cobble and that, all the decoration stuff, I think is a tremendous idea. I wish there was easier ways to mass produce blocks in the normal game, but this will have to do. Testing. I think I've got these shorts up already. We've got a few other. I'm going to hold off of doing the Drowned and Guardian, even though I've programmed them, simply because I have to obviously flood the arena again. and because of staircases and slabs, that got out of hand last time. And then we also have a few nether entities to do. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm happy with the progress. Hopefully you are too. Anyway, next clip will probably just be a few more of the I don't want to call it equivalent exchange because that's obviously taken. Shulk exchange. Just change. Exulk. Anyway. Right, so I tweaked it a bit. So for instance, cobblestone is now just 1. You can see we got 8 from dropping it up here, so we can see the transition. Added a few more, so the ores obviously isn't going to be 1. I think for diamond it's 64 or 32 for 1. Yeah, 32 for 1 diamond ore. And then for ancient debris, 64 for 1. Yep. Cool. If you try to drop, for instance, like 16 and then 16, so even though it adds up to the right amount, oh, it does actually work. I didn't realize that. I know if you just drop, obviously, a stack of, well, I need to rename one. I think if you just drop a stack of 64, because it's combined, it won't work. At least it shouldn't. But it is pretty good that you can add stuff up. So this shouldn't trigger. So you can't put 64 and gain 2 diamond ore, unfortunately. Yeah. But what this means is you can, and this is why I've tried to do low increments. I'm just trying to box it in, because I know it will shoot out pretty far. No, it shouldn't really matter which way they're facing, but I'm trying to make them accurate. So for instance, if we put the cobblestone in here, we can now automate it, in a sense, if I'm not in the way though. You can see it transitioning and becoming a big stack. And then obviously with like the diamond, so this is going to take a bit. You could obviously set up so it pulses enough times. Of course, it's giving it back to me. Try this again. So some do shoot out, so you have to box in better. Oh, actually no, so they're stacking up, thankfully. Should get there eventually. But the main idea... Oh, nope, they're out. If I drop 2 more in, it should be fine. Should work. Yep. That is a slight issue. I just realized what was going on and something I have to fix. The kill command, or deleting, is just targeting all shulk that's named, for instance, deep slate for this one. I need to add the parameter of it being on top of the lodestone, so that stuff like that doesn't happen where it just deletes everything out in the world. Yeah, so pretty good. Obviously, my main idea was not dispensers, was water buckets, so you can have a water pathway or channel going through, and as long as you can get it to stay on the lodestone within that 3-second margin, then you can have it converted, and it's, yeah, a fun automation. Hopefully I can continue slowly progressing, maybe a week or 2. I think at the point of me finishing off the mob system, I might release a map. I should put that a bit better. So I'm going to do the mob system last. So this equivalent exchange, it's not actually as hard as I'm making it out to be, because obviously it's just copy and pasting, and it's just putting in the numbers and the titling. So I've done, what, 30? So I've got another 70 to do. So it should only take 2 hours or so. And then the other difficulty system, it's kind of hard because I want to write unique equipment for them, and that takes the longest because you have to play around with UUIDs and everything. If you want to use attributes, I have to think about the different special abilities that we've built in. So there's all the different armor ones, and then the weapon effects. And then, yeah, just a mob system. I think I'll leave off the 12 bosses, and I do want to program advancements. That is going to be the slowest by far, because I need to learn a lot and teach myself to really cement what I want to do. The bosses actually are probably the easiest advancements, because you can just tie in NBT data, so I can just have it, if the player defeats a mob with X name, they get an achievement. But stuff like utilizing the different crafting systems. I want to make a string of advancements just to sort of teach and help the player learn, maybe reward them with certain equipment or certain items so that they can use the correct terminology and learn all about that. And then, of course, the biggest thing is I still am putting together a string of codexes. So rather than just one book, it's going to be several books. So this button will probably fill a chest or spawn a chest maybe. Or I might just do a whole bunch of lecterns. I'll have to figure it out. But good news, hopefully not a lot left. I can get most of it done. Hopefully. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.